a retail giant with decades of history, a household name referenced in movies and books, now suddenly forced to halt online operations, resorting to manual processes, pen and paper, and facing a financial fallout that's nothing short of staggering. 9,000 miles away, local businesses also face crippling financial loss as they sit at the mercy of Mother Nature's wrath. But can businesses make dramatic action to mitigate these impacts, just like a Turkish bank has done? Coming up on Unbreakable Ventures, Marks & Spencer's $400 million cyber breach, a toxic algae crisis that's crippling southern Australia, and why QNB Türkiye's risk management plan told them to shift 830 people out of Istanbul. Welcome to Unbreakable Ventures. I'm Ollie Law, and you are listening to our fortnightly risk update, where we dive into emerging and current risks from around the world, focusing on some big stories and some you may have missed. We use the categories from the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report to simplify the threats we're monitoring, but we also do some deep dives and interviews with industry peers. It's Monday the 2nd of June, and we're covering the world's global threats between the 19th of May and Sunday the 1st of June 2025. So grab a coffee and let's get into it. So what happened at Marks & Spencer, one of Britain's most iconic retailers? It was a full-blown security breach by the sophisticated hacking group Scattered Spider. While the devastating effects became apparent around Easter weekend when M&S halted online operations and switched off automated stock systems, hackers gained access to their IT systems as early as February 2025. The timing was particularly brutal, coinciding with a period when M&S was finally showing promising results from years of restructuring efforts. But let's talk numbers. Marks & Spencer estimates the total cost of this breach at approximately $400 million in lost operating profit for their fiscal year ending March 2026. The attack has already wiped over £1 billion off the company's stock market value. They hope to cut that impact in half through insurance claims. But it's not just about the immediate financial hit, it's about the broader blow to investor confidence.
An update now on that cyber attack that hit Marks & Spencer 3 weeks ago. The firm's revealed some personal customer data was stolen in the attack. Our cyber correspondent Joe Tidy is with me in the studio. Joe, just what else has emerged about this?
Well, I'm afraid, this was a bit inevitable, because we know that the way that these ransomware groups work is they get into a company's system. They quite often, nearly always now, do something called double extortion, which means they first of all steal a copy of whatever data they can get, and then they scramble the victim's data. So that in this instance, as we expected...
Marks & Spencer CEO Stuart Mashan revealed the breach occurred through a third party following human error. He stressed the company hadn't left the door open, and it wasn't due to underinvestment in cybersecurity. This attack is characterised as ransomware, though whether Marks & Spencer paid a ransom, reportedly up to £10 million, remains unclear. But it's clear that with safeguards, a sophisticated attack, a third-party vulnerability, and human error can unravel everything. The disruption continues. Online sales have been heavily impacted, forcing the company to pause online shopping entirely. They resorted to manual processes, pen and paper, to manage inventory. This led to bare shelves and frustrated customers. Marks & Spencer expects disruptions to online operations to continue throughout June and into July. The road to full recovery is clearly a long one. The fact that this breach occurred through a third party due to human error is crucial. Your weakest link might not be your internal systems, but a vendor, partner, or even an employee mistake. Your digital defenses extend far beyond your four walls. This Marks & Spencer cyber attack is more than a cautionary tale, it's a key lesson for businesses. Let's delve into what this means for you and what practical steps you can take. First, who is most at risk? Frankly, everyone. CEO Stuart Mashan's observation that everyone is vulnerable hits the mark. Even well-resourced companies like Marks & Spencer can fall victim. Other major UK retailers have been targeted by similar attacks, suggesting coordinated efforts by cybercriminal organisations. If you handle customer data, process transactions, or rely on digital systems, you are a potential target. Next, what's the actual impact and disruption to a business like Marks & Spencer? The M&S incident provides a stark illustration. Beyond the $400 million financial hit, operational disruption was severe. They resorted to manual processes, leading to bare shelves and frustrated customers. For any business, a similar attack could mean significant financial losses, operational paralysis, reputational damage, and legal scrutiny. The takeaway for businesses is to not underestimate the need for robust manual backup processes and contingency plans for extended system outages. Finally, what preventative actions can businesses take right now? 1. Strengthen third-party security. Vet all your vendors and suppliers thoroughly. Your security is only as strong as your weakest link. 2. Invest in human firewall training. Regular, engaging cybersecurity training for all employees is crucial to mitigate human error. 3. Implement multi-factor authentication everywhere. This is non-negotiable. It adds an extra security layer even if credentials are stolen. 4. Regularly backup data and test backups. Ensure backups are isolated and functional to combat ransomware. 5. Develop a comprehensive incident response plan. Have a clear, actionable plan for containment, eradication, and recovery. Practice it through tabletop exercises. 6. Segment your network. Divide your network to limit an attacker's lateral movement if one part is compromised. 7. Stay informed and collaborate. Join industry groups and share threat intelligence. A collective defense is a stronger defense. The Marks & Spencer cyber attack is a powerful reminder that in our interconnected business environment, cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem. It's a fundamental business risk that requires constant vigilance, robust defenses, and a comprehensive plan. Don't be the next cyber headline. So, what's happening down under? Since March 2025, South Australia has been battling a toxic algal bloom, an environmental crisis of unprecedented scale. It's caused by a harmful algae species called Karenia mikimotoi, originating out of Japan in 1935. This bloom has spread across over 150 kilometers of coastline, devastating marine ecosystems and crippling coastal industries. Imagine over 200 marine species confirmed dead, from fish to deep water sharks, and multiple commercial operations effectively shut down. Authorities have been forced to implement widespread closures of oyster farms and shellfish harvesting areas, alongside public health warnings for beachgoers experiencing respiratory symptoms. It's a stark reminder that even in the most serene environments, major disruptions can emerge. So, what is Karenia mikimotoi? This is a microscopic single-celled algae. It sounds harmless, but it's an ecological and industry destroyer. These tiny organisms produce potent toxins that damage fish gills, attack red blood cells, and disrupt the nervous system. Marine biologists describe the effect as a toxic blanket that suffocates marine life like a horror movie for fish. So, why now? And why so severe? Scientists are calling this a perfect storm scenario. 3 main factors converged. First, an ongoing marine heat wave with sea temperatures about 2.5 degrees Celsius above average. Second, nutrient enrichment from the 2022 to 23 River Murray floods washed excess nutrients into marine waters, essentially feeding the algae. And third, an unprecedented cold water upwelling brought even more nutrient-rich deep water to the surface. Add to that persistent high-pressure weather systems that prevented the usual strong westerly winds from breaking up the bloom, and you have a recipe for disaster.
It is a larger bloom than we have ever seen before. It is not far off the size of Kangaroo Island.
The South Australian government's response highlights the stark reality where Environment Minister Susan Close said, "There's nothing we can do. The only thing that is going to break this bloom up is a change in the weather." They're monitoring, issuing warnings, and hoping for strong winds to disperse it, but nature is proving far more powerful. This crisis provides crucial lessons for businesses in specific industries and locations. First, who is most at risk of a similar environmental disruption? Clearly, marine industries like commercial fishing, aquaculture, and tourism are on the front lines. Coastal businesses that rely on a healthy marine environment, from restaurants serving local seafood to recreational tour operators, are directly impacted. But this also extends to any business with a supply chain dependent on environmental stability, or those in regions susceptible to climate-driven events. Second, what could be the actual impact and disruption? The Marks & Spencer story was about a technological threat. This is about an environmental one with equally devastating economic consequences. In South Australia, the direct financial burden is immense, with at least 6 oyster farms forced to shut down and quarantine up to 10 million oysters. Operators are unable to work during what should be prime harvesting season, leading to significant revenue loss. There are long-term viability concerns for the shellfish industry and a hit to consumer confidence. Farmers describe themselves as being in uncharted waters, highlighting the unpredictable nature of such events and the profound psychological and economic stress on farming families. This crisis serves as a preview of the financial costs associated with increasing environmental volatility in the age of climate change. So what preventative actions can businesses take right now to mitigate such environmental risks? First, enhance environmental monitoring and early warning systems. Businesses in vulnerable sectors need better real-time data on environmental conditions. Knowing what's coming, even if it's an algal bloom, allows for proactive measures like adjusting harvesting schedules or preparing for closures. Second, develop robust adaptation strategies. For marine industries, this could mean exploring diversified aquaculture species less susceptible to blooms, or investing in technologies that allow for offshore or controlled environment farming. For coastal tourism, it might involve diversifying attractions beyond beach-based activities. Third, strengthen supply chain resilience to environmental shocks. If your business relies on products from environmentally sensitive regions, identify alternative suppliers or build in redundancy. Don't put all your eggs in one environmentally vulnerable basket. And 4, implement comprehensive contingency planning. Just as with cyber attacks, businesses need plans for extended environmental disruptions. How will you manage inventory, communicate with customers, and maintain cash flow if your primary operations are halted for weeks or months? And finally, engage in proactive environmental stewardship. While not a direct mitigation for this bloom, businesses can advocate for and invest in broader environmental health, reducing nutrient pollution and supporting climate change mitigation efforts can contribute to a healthier operating environment in the long run. The South Australian algal bloom is a powerful illustration of how climate change and environmental pressures create unprecedented ecological and economic disasters. It's a call to action for businesses to recognise and plan for environmental risks as critically as they do for technological ones.
In southern Turkey, buildings crumble like sand. Obliterated by some of the worst earthquakes in a century.
Today's final update concerns a strategic look at what some major businesses are starting to consider, and that is the very ground they stand on, or perhaps where they should be standing. This story isn't about immediate mitigation advice, but a larger, more existential question about long-term operational placement in a world increasingly shaped by natural disasters and climate change. Our jumping off point is QNB Türkiye, a major player in the financial world. Recently, they made a significant move, relocating their main data center and other key operational units from Istanbul to Ankara. So why is this? It appears there is a deep concern about Istanbul's significant earthquake risk. Istanbul sits precariously close to the North Anatolian fault line, a geological hotspot, and the devastating quakes that hit southern Turkey in 2023 no doubt underscored the urgency for a bank whose uninterrupted operation is, quite literally, a lifeline to the economy. Now, this isn't just about one bank, it begs a critical question for all major lifeline and utility businesses. Do we need to start fundamentally reconsidering where we put our critical operations as natural disasters and climate change intensify? While it's rare to read about businesses moving operations due to climate concerns, the trend is emerging in more nuanced ways. We're seeing companies diversifying their supply chain hubs globally, rather than concentrating them in a single vulnerable spot. Tech giants like Amazon and Google are investing heavily in geographically distributed data centers, ensuring that a localized flood or earthquake doesn't take down their entire digital infrastructure. It's less about a grand exodus, and more about a strategic re-evaluation of risk across their entire operational footprint. And what does the science tell us about the increase in natural disasters, especially considering where many of our key commercial hubs are located? Well, Mother Nature seems to be upping her game. The IPCC, the Global Authority on Climate Science, is clear. We're seeing an increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Think more intense heat waves, heavier rainfall, and stronger storms. Critically, global sea levels are rising, putting coastal cities at greater risk of flooding and storm surges. And here's the kicker. Historically, many of our greatest cities like London, New York, Shanghai, and Tokyo were founded near water or in seismically active zones precisely because of those historic trade routes and natural advantages. The cruel irony is that many of those very advantages are now becoming vulnerabilities. The very reasons we built our bustling metropolises are becoming their Achilles heel. To really illustrate this dilemma, let's look at a case study close to home for us here in New Zealand, the Christchurch earthquakes. After the devastating quakes in 2010 and 2011, which heavily impacted the city's central business district, there was a lot of discussion about moving key businesses and government infrastructure out of the city centre to less risky areas like Rolleston. And while some businesses did migrate, the majority remarkably chose to rebuild in the heavily impacted city centre, right within the 4 avenues that bore the brunt of the damage. This leads us to the complex flip side of the relocation coin. What happens to the local economy when big businesses move away? Imagine all those local cafes, restaurants, dry cleaners, and small shops that rely entirely on the daily influx of thousands of office workers. If those major workforces move, those supporting businesses often wither and die. Rebuilding in Christchurch's CBD, despite the risks, was a deliberate choice to revive that established ecosystem to maintain the vibrancy and the essential fabric of the city. It's a constant balancing act between long-term resilience and immediate economic survival. So QNB Türkiye's move is more than just a logistical shift. It's a strategic ripple that could, and perhaps should, prompt a larger conversation for major corporations worldwide. It highlights the complex trade-offs between mitigating physical risks, maintaining business continuity, and preserving the economic and social ecosystems of our established urban centres. The question isn't simple, and the answers are even harder. But ignoring it, that's a risk no business can afford. That's it for today's update. If you need help navigating these threats or building a plan to protect your business, the same advisors who collate these insights are here to help. Head over to unbreakableventures.com to book a complimentary chat online with one of them. And if you found this resource useful, consider subscribing to Unbreakable Ventures or sharing the article with your network. After all, resilience is about community and communication. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, stay safe.
Unbreakable Ventures is brought to you by the Senior Advisory Team at Fixing, a boutique resilience advisory based in the Oceania, ASEAN and India regions. Special thanks to our sponsor and Europe's leading SaaS provider for resilience software, F24. Our resources are researched and published by industry specialists across New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia and the UK. This podcast provides advice and opinion on disaster recovery and the threat landscape. The content is not a substitute for expert guidance during a crisis. Unbreakable Ventures is trademarked by Fixing Consulting Partners, a Fixing Group company.